Welcome everybody to Tales from the Tackle Shop. We are fast approaching Christmas. I'm sure I said that last week as well. Obviously run out of things to say already, but we are on episode 9 and it's good evening, Alex.
Good evening, Andy.
How art thou?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad.
Cool.
Not too loud, am I?
Don't know, you've got new headphones, haven't you? You splashed out.
Yeah, they seem loud, but as long as everyone can hear me, that's the main thing.
Well, that's debatable, isn't it? But hey-ho, we'll carry on. Yeah, we'll carry on. Right, we've got, surprisingly, with lockdown and no matches, we have got an awful lot to talk about. So we're going to fly straight into it. I know I mention this every week, but it's evolving massively. The Fenland Guardian scheme, hot off the press, we've got Chatteris Working Men's Club have recently joined the scheme. I spoke to Mick Bassett on Sunday, and he's the chairman of the club. And
good old Mick.
Yeah, we had a lovely conversation. So they're really keen to join. They've got a pretty tight ship, really. They've just got a problem with, there's one section, I think they call it is it night layers?
Right, yeah.
It's where the leak factories are. It's basically between the junction of the 40-foot, 16-foot, going back upstream to just about the A141 bridge. It's
Mill.
It's well out of the way, and it gets a lot of how can we put it, illegal activity. I mean, we've had guys find deadlines there twice in the last month. So if anybody out there can help out along that stretch as a guardian, just contact me, please, because the more eyes and ears we have in that area, the better it's going to be. And obviously, running up to Christmas, we do want to keep an eye out on these areas because this is the prime time for fish removal. So anybody can help out on that stretch of the 40-foot, please let us know. But welcome to Chatteris, that's great. Did you see my little video on the litter pick?
Yeah, I'll see a few Facebook posts on that, yeah. Looked like you had a lovely day.
Well, I wouldn't say lovely, but Johan Watson finding his frilly knickers was, I suppose, the funniest thing of the morning. No, it's great. We had Nick down there, Gav, John and Tony, so thanks for that, guys. We picked up an awful lot of rubbish, but it's amazing what you can pick up in an hour if you just go for it. So that was really good. Alex Thompson from the Environment Agency joined us as well, and we used his deadline to deadline? I've got deadline on the brain. We used his grappling hook to drag out some crap from a local dike as well, so we got all that sorted. And on the video, people will notice that the Fenland District Council did not appear. I spoke to them when I got home, and they were there the next day picking up the rest of the rubbish. So that was pretty good. So that's good.
Cool.
Yep. And just an update on where we are with the Angling Trust Anglers Against Litter. I spoke to Dr. Emily Smith at back end of last week, or should I say we spoke via email. They're very keen to get involved with the Guardian scheme, which is great. However, not quite there yet. So we'll just see how that materialises. I am pushing them for a bit of funding because I do know they do get quite a large sum for doing all sorts of things, of which litter is one of them. So believe it or not, Alex, we have distributed over 1,700 flyers and business cards.
Really?
Yeah, I need to put another order in, which is ridiculous, really, which is good, I suppose. But I'm nearly out, so we need to get another 1,000 done, and that's 70 quid a throw. So we are going to seriously going to have to look at funding streams soon because, the amount of interest in the scheme has been phenomenal. So that is brilliant. Okay, so I'll keep everybody updated with that as it happens. Right, Alex, before we do anything else, a few weeks ago, I met up with somebody, and we have a little 5-minute, very short section for you now to see if you can guess who it is. We have a really special guest on this week, and his podcast will be out on the Friday. But Mr. Bates, I've got a few little questions to see if you can guess who I've got sitting in front of me. I'm sitting in quite new offices. It's very posh. 10 years old.
Yeah.
and it's a very calm place to be, and I'm very close to water. Right, let's see if we can guess who we've got. Okay, so mystery guess. What's your first car?
Fiat Punto.
Fiat Punto?
Yes.
And when did you have that?
15 years ago, something like that.
You don't look old. I'm at age.
38.
You're not. Are you really?
Yeah, I am. I struggle with that question. I always get it wrong.
When you were telling me what things you'd done on the podcast, I was going, my maths is good. You're not that old. Okay. Favourite bird?
Favourite bird is a wheat ear.
A what?
A wheat ear.
Oh, wheat ear. What's one of those?
So it's a small migrant bird. Spends our winter in southern Africa, and it migrates to the British Isles in spring. It's one of the first sort of classic spring migrants that we see. It's just a beautiful, elegant, quite solitary bird. Has a very kind of sort of elegant pose.
Is this how you describe yourself?
There are probably maybe some similarities there.
Do you have 6 toes?
No, not at the moment.
You're not a femboy, are you?
I'm not, no.
Where are you from originally?
I'm from North Kent.
We had Tom Moyer was from Kent as well.
Oh, really?
Do you like real ale?
I love real ale.
Everyone from Kent likes real ale.
There's some good ones down there.
Favourite reptilian?
Favourite reptilian? I'll go with the common lizard, which I occasionally see when I'm out and about in the fens.
Cool. How many water voles have you seen in your life, roughly?
Not as many as you'd think. They're pretty elusive.
Favourite dropping smell?
Otter.
Really?
Definitely.
It's got a distinct.
It's a very. It smells like freshly cut grass. Yeah. So it's very, very sweet, sort of smelling sprite you find on rocks and under bridges, and where I spend most of my time.
Does your partner think you're boring?
No, I think she probably thinks I'm quite eccentric. So especially by some of the things I bring home sometimes, I'm like, oh, this dead thing I found.
I wasn't being rude. Mine thinks I'm very boring. And eccentric.
Well, maybe she does. Maybe she's just polite.
Favourite bird of prey?
I go marsh harrier.
Why?
It reminds me of the North Kent marshes, which is it's close to where I grew up. I spent a lot of time out there working with the RSPB, and that was a species that it reminds me of that. I saw my first ever one out there, and it reminds me of that place. And they get an amazing bird, and a real success story in this country. Pretty much extinct. Came back, and now they're found throughout the country, up in Scotland. So it's pretty amazing recovery.
That is, isn't it? It's fantastic. First name?
Peter.
And what do you do as a job?
Conservation officer for the mid-level commissioners.
Brilliant. And why do you not go fishing?
Good question. I should do. Maybe you need to take me out and show me the ropes.
I think we should. We'll go out on the boat in the middle of nowhere, and we'll have obviously socially you'd have to be in a separate boat, I'll tell you. We'll wait till we get rid of this COVID.
You can tell me about the one that got away. Doesn't everyone have a one that got away story?
Yeah. Oh, don't. There must be some monsters. Yeah.
It's going to be so big.
It was bigger than a whale. Guys, you've got to listen to this week's special guest. It's Peter Beckenham from Middle Level Commissioners. We have just spent just about an hour recording about what he does, what he's involved with, and honestly, I've had to keep it really short because he's such an interesting person. We could have spent hours. So, Peter, that was brilliant. Thank you for your time for that.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
So, on Friday's podcast, it's just Peter. It's about his role, and you need to listen because we're offering lots of opportunity to the general public. So, Alex, that's Peter Beckenham, and his podcast is out Friday.
Yeah, sounds interesting. Mate. It's different perspective on drains, really, isn't it?
Yeah, completely different. obviously he's a non-angler, but he is coming from the conservation point of view. And I had a fascinating couple of hours talking to him, and he's very keen to get loads done for the Guardian scheme. And yeah, he's just ultra keen on getting things sorted for the environment. So that'll be good. Talking of guests and podcasts, I weaved my magic on Simon Willsmore.
Weaved your magic.
I have-
Well, you don't catch no fish, so you obviously ain't magic, are you?
I've turned him to the dark side.
Yeah. Probably because he was that bored because there's no magic going on.
He had a pike float out Saturday. Happy to announce. He was half feeder, half piking. Good old boy. He sent me a message Friday. I think he bought a pair of forceps, a trace, and a pike float. Yeah, so welcome to the dark side, Simon. That'd be great. I said to him, send me a picture when you catch one. And I think he had one attack his feeder, which is sod's law, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least he's trying. Anyway, that was great to have him on last week. So what's the feedback been like for his podcast?
Yes, a lot of people have said it's one of the best ones that we've done, which is good. I know it was long and a bit sort of, you might have to stop and do something and then pick it up again. But it was, for me, it was interesting to speak to Simon on his sort of background into match fishing and how in Italy, just even putting the rigs on your winders and little things like that, I think are quite interesting.
Oh, I felt a bit daft. I don't know if I mentioned it last week on the podcast, but because I didn't really know much about him, did I? So I rocked up with my stuff, and there's me wanting to get on to talk about the floats.
Yeah, all he wanted to talk about was floats all the time. I was like, hang on a minute.
No.
Come on, steady on.
Steady on. Hold up.
Yeah, so you started match fishing, and let's talk about your floats. Oh, okay.
I didn't know he fished for England. I didn't know he fished for Dorking. That's your fault for not telling me. I felt like a prize plum. But
well,
yeah, I did apologise to him afterwards.
No changes then, eh?
No, but seriously, though, what a nice guy.
Yeah, he's a top bloke, Simon. Exceptionally good angler as well. And I think for this podcast as well, like the products he does are pretty sort of niche for this area and sort of specific. So definitely worth a listen.
Definitely. In fact, that brings us on beautifully to a little competition that you're running.
Yeah, we're going to do a little Facebook competition, a bit of a like and share to win perhaps some of Simon's hooks, a few of his ready-made rigs, and maybe some spotted fin ground bait, sort of a little bundle. So look out for the Tackle and Baits Facebook page, and I'm sure it'll be on the Tales from the Tackle Shop one as well. So it's look out for that one, and hopefully someone might get lucky and win the goodie bag.
So just to help people out here, they're gonna have to listen to the podcast to get the answer, aren't they?
Oh yeah.
So you got to listen to Simon's podcast, which was last Friday. There'll be a question about it on Tackle and Baits and Tales from the Tackle Shop Facebook pages, and then Alex is going to give away something. Crikey, you're in a good mood.
Yeah, give away something.
You must be in a really good mood.
Yeah. Loving it.
I thought you were Scottish.
Well, you know why, don't you? Because I think we might be match fishing in a couple of weeks' time.
Or more likely, it's tax deductible and you can get away with it.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were Scottish, sort of short arms and long pockets.
Yeah, that's what everyone says. Yeah.
Yeah, might be match fishing. It's looking good, isn't it? It
is, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, but we won't jinx it, so let's not go there just yet. So that's a really good idea, Alex, about the Facebook competition. So I think if that is well received, it's something we could do a bit more of in the future as well.
Yeah. I think. You don't want to sort of do things too sort of not cheesy. Sort of you see or like and share all these posts, and I don't know. It's maybe the way of the world now, but we want to do it that's sort of worth people doing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean that one is, like you said, it's it's gear that is really specific to this area, and it
It is, yeah.
top
Yeah.
quality as well. Without repeating ourselves a million times, I was just amazed going through it with him in the shop about how good it all
Yeah.
was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Talking of the shop, we had a really good question again this week from that famous gladiator, Marcus Aurelius. Now, he's obviously racking his brains of what he can ask his missus to get him for Christmas. So he said, can you think of must-haves in your tackle box or your fishing kit to give ideas to anglers to tell their better halves? So,
Right.
good question. Now, I did say I sent you this question earlier today, and I said you can't mention tackle shop vouchers. Even that, though, they are a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because every angler is a bit sort of their tackle boxes. They're sort of one of the reasons why you go fishing as well is because you like to build your tackle and adapt it and change it, and you have your like personal rigs and your personal floats and that all that side of things. But I'm going to sort of say for me, essential items that I have in my tackle box that maybe not are just tackle shop related, but help me when we're fishing. So obviously we bang on about Balabini's shot and keeping it central on the line and that. So a decent pair of shot pliers. I mean, they're about £7-8, but to me they make a big difference when you're making rigs. So that's one item. I mean, I've actually been tying some rigs tonight, so I'm looking in my drawer in my box.
Actually, everyone listening, Alex was tying rigs earlier. We were trying to get the podcast started. He was going, hold on a minute, hold on, let me just finish this rig. And then he told me it's too complicated for me anyway.
It is, mate. Yeah, you won't be able to see a number 13 trimmer shot, would you?
I've got one of those boxes of shot with all the mixtures in. It starts at 8, 9, and goes up to 13. They're not used. Yeah. I can't even see them.
Yeah, they're probably all seized up anyway because they were lead when you last bought them. And, yeah, I can imagine. So the next little gadget or item is a loop sizer or loop tire. So a lot of anglers struggle with tying the same size loops. I just use a little Samo or Browning loop sizer, and it just keeps all my loops exactly the same size every single time. And they're really cheap item. They're like £2 or whatever, or $1.50, and they just I wouldn't be without them really.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah, that's another one on my list. Then I'm also looking in my tackle box, and I've got Tipex. So people might say, why do you want Tipex for? Obviously, I would think every match angler has probably got a little tub of Tipex in their seat box. Every time I plumb up different, like at the start, I like to find the exact depth, just mark it on my top kit, and then I can move it up and down depending on what I am. I know where I started from, and Tipex is a must, really, mate. I mean, especially on these drains, although you don't think the levels are changing, you think, I say the same all the time, but you might replumb up halfway through and you're 2 inches over depth or 2 inches shallower. So,
I can understand that, having fished out the front here this summer. It's amazing. You just, once you start fiddling about, you then think, hold on a minute, where was I? Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, that's a really good one.
Another little bit of tackle I'm looking at now. It looks like a jumbo disgorger, something that you'd use, with massive great big hooks. But if I screw it in half, it's actually a knot picker. I don't actually use it for knots, but I use it more for pinning hemp. So I think we spoke about hemp fishing before, and I just use this just to pop the end where the hemp sort of joins the pod, and I could put my hook in, turn it, and you can catch sort of 5 or 6 fish on the same bit of emp. So it's another little bit of tackle that is quite essential, really. Does 2 jobs, obviously. Untangles them knots if you get them, and then a bit of hemp pricking as well.
Cool.
And these are all quite cheap items as well. They're not, they're proper little stocking
fillers. Yeah.
Another little thing I've got is hook rings or hook pole holders. And nowadays, obviously, elastic costs quite a bit of money, and especially hollow elastics. And when we're fishing venues, obviously, we have lots of top kits set up, and we like to we pull the hook onto the bottom of the, say, the number 3, number 4, number 5 section, depending on the venue you're fishing. And sometimes your rigs are a lot shorter than that, and obviously you're pulling your elastic down, and basically in the sun, it's deteriorating your elastic, and obviously you want to make it last long as possible. And these hook rings are like an elastic band, but with a nice little ring on it, so you can put your hook in there, so it'll slide up the section, and you can keep the elastic inside the pole rather than outside the pole when you've got them all up on your side, on your top kit roost. So they're nice and cheap as well. I mean, Colmick do them. Drennan have done them for years, but I do like these ones because they really are stretchy. And like if you're fishing deep venues like Ely or the Ouse or 20 foot where you need a slightly bigger one, then these Colmick ones are bob on for that, really.
That's a really good
not
idea.
Expensive.
Yeah, another good idea. I like that.
Yeah, so that's in my drawer. I mean, with my disgorgers, obviously there's loads of different types of disgorgers, but I like a medium disgorger. But what I do with mine is I put some black hydro through it, so it's like a necklace. And obviously, because it's black hydro, it lasts a bit longer. I mean, you could use any elastic really, and I just always put that round my neck when I'm over my hood, round my neck when I'm fishing, and when I swing a fish into my chest, I can just instantly straight onto your disgorger, unhooking the fish, straight back, let go. You don't have to worry about putting it down, and to me that saves me a lot of time. It might be a difference between 2 and 3 fish at the end of the day, and that can be 2 or 3 ounces. So,
Well, if you've dropped it, you've got to go searching for it off your trays.
Yeah.
That's it's all the little things, the 1% that make the difference.
Yeah, I just think to me, I'm lost when I ain't got the disgorger around my neck. It's weird. I get in the same routine of fishing, and just before the match, the last thing I do is put my disgorger around my neck, get set, ready for the match.
Yeah. I can see that. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that's another little item. The other thing is plummets. I'm looking at the box here, and I've got quite a few different weight plummets. Obviously, heavier ones the better, but on some venues, which I know a venue in particular that we fish is called Ramsey Narrows, and on the 40 foot, and I can remember 3 or 4 years ago, it was probably 5 years ago, it was probably 8-9 foot deep in places. Now it's about 4 foot deep, so it's obviously silted up. And I remember having problems with bait droppers not opening on there before and that. So I tend to use what we call like a bungee plummet or a flat plummet, just so it sits on top of the silt a bit better.
Yeah.
And basically having a range of plummets is essential, really, because you might have extra flow on a venue, so you need a heavy plummet and get the exact right depth. And sometimes you want a light plummet because it is very silty. So definitely want a range of plummets. Got some tape, electrical tape.
Tape.
Black electrical tape. That always comes in handy. Whether you decide, like sometimes if you fish into a shelf, or I mean, a lot of the top end poles now will have like little, they're like little markers on the actual graphics of the pole, so you're fishing in exactly the same spot. If if you're you got your marker on the far bank, but you just want it in exactly the right spot. I just put a bit of tape round, in like where I'm holding it in a comfy position, and I know I'm going to be in exactly the right
for your hands.
position.
Right, I've got you.
Yeah.
That is taking it to the nth level, isn't it?
Yeah, the other thing I use it for is if you are using a bait dropper, I put a bit of tape round and then twist it up. So it makes like, some people use a cable tie, but I just use tape because it's nice and easy. Cable ties are a nightmare to get off, and if you do it too tight, you run the risk of damaging your pole. But with tape, you just wrap it round, twist it up nicely, and then you can make like a little hook out of the tape, and so you got two little tips out of just a bit of tape.
So you hook. What you do is, rather than have a long little bit of line with a bait dropper going into the water, you hook the line around that hook, so it takes up half the length of the line, literally, of the bait dropper.
Yeah.
Get it out to where you want it, twist it.
Yeah. Then you get to your mark where you've marked it on your pole.
Yeah.
Turn your pole, lower it in nice and slowly, right exactly in the same position.
Yeah, I got you. Good one.
You're nice and accurate.
How about a bobnut weed rake?
Might be an essential item if you fish the drains in the summer and through the autumn. I do carry that around. It's a bit of a weapon, but
did we ever get one engraved?
Yeah, personal time. Yeah.
Right, Alex, I think there's some really good ideas there. I've got some for the predator angler, and I'm going to fly through these. Forceps.
Yeah, it's quite essential, really, isn't it?
But people have one pair. I've got zillions of them. I always have. If I've got my boat bag, I've got my bank bag. I might have a 3 or 4 other bags for different things. I've probably got 3 or 4 sets of forceps in each bag.
Right.
Quite simply because if I lose one, I want to have a second one in the bag still. So I find if I've got 2 pairs, I never lose them.
Right.
It's just pre-planning. You don't know if you forget to zip up a pocket and one slides out. So I always think people should have lots of different pairs of forceps. And these things are pretty awfully made most of the time. They go rusty. So, you need to... I have plenty of these things. On a boat, I have loads because they fall over the sides and all sorts. The next thing is something I thought I would never, ever say with most of my piking. And you're going to think I've gone a bit mad, but it's an unhooking mat. Back in the day, you used to walk miles. You had the biggest unhooking mat ever, which was a really soft, grassy, damp bank. However, I see a lot of people sitting next to a bridge on a well-worn path, so everybody needs to have an unhooking mat. Now, I have a little one. I don't have one of these massive things. The reason I have a small one is I can roll it up and I can move, but it's still better than nothing, and I use it to lay the pike's head on.
Yeah.
So it's fully protected. If you get a big pike and that's thrashing around and you haven't got the extra padding, that could kill the fish. So you don't need these huge carp things, but you do need to think about it. You do need extra protection for the pike. And also, even on banks that have got lush grass and whatever, the middle level commissioners, for example, have been cutting a lot of banks recently, and it leaves a stubbly effect with the reeds. Well, that's razor sharp. So you need to put something down on top of that if you're unhooking pike. You can't just put the pike straight on top of it because it marks the size of the fish. It leaves red marks on them, sores. They can get infected and so forth. So, everyone needs some form of unhooking mat. Decent wellies. I thought about this today because I've got a lovely pair of Le Chameau wellies. Must have had them 20 years, but they've perished. And these things have got a neoprene lining. They're great for walking in. And they're really warm. So, you get out there in the winter. You want to go for a walk and get away from everybody else. Decent pair of wellies. And the most important thing that I think every pike angler in the fen should have is a pair of testicles. Because I'm seeing everybody sitting next to everybody. This is ridiculous. Big pike thrive on neglect. In other words, you'll find them by exploring. So, come on guys, don't just sit next to a bridge. Get out there, Go walking with your decent wellies on and your little unhooking mat rolled up in your rucksack with your 3 pairs of forceps, and go and find your own fish rather than all sit there together and catch the same pike week in, week out. Because that's what we're having at the minute. It's mayhem. So if I've upset anybody, I don't care. Grow a pair, go walking, go and find your own fish. End of sermon. Did you like that one?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. I mean, it's brilliant to see lots of people fishing, and my deadbait sales have been brilliant the last couple of weeks, and a lot of anglers buying lures and traces and stuff like that. And obviously, yeah, essential items, unhooking mat and your forceps, definitely. I mean, plan was to go fishing yesterday on, somewhere, and I think I went to 5 different venues, and well, it was great to see the anglers there, but it was a little bit frustrating, really, because you go to where you'd want to fish, and as a match angler, you sort of have the one peg and the one rod in, and that's what you do, and you fish in front of you and that. And there was lots of pike anglers sort of, I don't know, a bit like the Germans, hogging quite a few pegs with, perhaps sat in front of one, but they've got rods in maybe 2 or 3 pegs. And I can understand why they've done it, because obviously you want to spread your rods out and that side of things. But when there's a lot of anglers about, it's a bit frustrating, really, because there's perfectly good pegs that, as a general pleasure angler, you'd probably want to sit on, but you can't because there's rods here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, we spoke about this just before. We both come from this from different angles. My philosophy is this: if I'm there first, I'm there first, and if I spread my rods out, then I spread my rods out. However, you're not going to catch big pike in great condition if you all sit together next to a known area, next to a bridge. This to me is the biggest problem. If you're serious about your pike fishing, get on your bike, not literally, but walk. Get away from areas that everyone pile into, because all you're doing is catching the same fish that are going to die, because pike do not deal with repeat captures very well. So, the problem we have at the minute is there's lots of bait fish near bridges, and everybody piles into them. The match anglers, the predator anglers. And I can understand to a degree when guys are working all week and they want to get a run. I've got to catch something. Yeah, I get that. However, you're not going to have any surprises if you just sit there, hammering the same fish. So, like I said, going for a walk, going out into the fen is brilliant. You never know what you're quite going to get. If you explore, you get loads of blanks, but you'll probably get a PB in the middle of nowhere that no one's ever caught before, and that is worth 10 of any fish that's been caught a million times, that's battered to death and on its last legs. So that's my own take on it. And I've got a story for you in a bit, Alex, about... In fact, we'll do it now. So here's an example. I went out Friday. I went on my boat, and I just went for about an hour. I knew roughly the area I wanted to go to, but I didn't have any sort of fixed location. And I just wanted to get out into the middle of nowhere. I didn't want to see anybody, because to me that's what fen piking's about. You leapfrog, you explore areas, and you'll bump into pods of fish, and they'll be in brilliant condition. They've got all their teeth, no one's caught them before, and if you do it well enough and hard enough, you'll get some brilliant surprises. So I thought, right, I'm going to start. So I went for quite a long drive, fished for the morning, and I planned to do something in the afternoon. It's a good job I planned to do something in the afternoon, because I started my engine and it fired into life, and I just packed away my last rod and my engine died. And I thought, no. And I could just tell it was not going to start. So I used my landing net to paddle about half a mile to a bridge. Like, you can imagine, I'm in my canoe with my I thought, this is purgatory. And I'd already sent Nina a message and said, look, if by the time you finish work, I'm going to be at this bridge. I've got a spare engine, thankfully. Now, if anybody knows anything about boats, the one I had on my boat's a short shaft, and my spare was a long shaft. which was handy because if it had been the other way around, I'd be completely screwed. So I could put the long shaft on. It wouldn't work brilliantly, but it would get me home. So thankfully she rocked up after work and brought the spare engine. It's starting to get a bit gloomy, and I got it on the back and it started, and I went, oh, thank God for that. So I'm kind of limping home, feeling a bit sorry for myself. I did actually catch a couple, but they weren't very big, but they were mint condition. They were like someone had painted them. You know, it's beautiful. I had a lovely morning apart from the engine not working. Anyway, I'm pottering home. It's going to take me a long time because I've got the wrong size engine on the boat and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm kind of relieved. I'm sort of sorting myself out. And then I saw this swan. And normally, out in the wilds, the swans are fairly wild and they see you when they take off or they move out of your way. And this swan was doing the opposite. It was coming straight towards me. And I'm thinking, hello. And then it started.
It's your mate from March Town Centre.
It started to take off. But it was not off the water. So you can imagine, I don't want to slow down and stop because I'm thinking, oh, no, I can't afford for this engine to stall. So I'm keeping this engine going. And this swan is basically coming straight towards me and it hasn't taken off. And honestly, about 30 foot away, I'm thinking, we're on collision course here. This thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, about this point away from me, the swan then sort of like puts its rudder on and then it goes up. So I'm watching this swan go right up above me and it just turned its body sideways. Now, thank God I put my head down at that moment in time because that swan shat all over me. It absolutely pebble dashed me. I felt like I played paintball with it. It was like, boo, 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 boo. Oh, my waterproofs were all green. My boat was all green. Oh, bloody thing. So there I am. Had all the trials and tribulations of an engine not working and then having to paddle my boat like a canoe. And then I got attacked by a swan. I couldn't believe it. I got back home and I was absolutely stinking. Oh, tired, fed up, hate swans. Bloody thing. But that swan saw me from a long way off and he thought, I'm going to get Pagey today. Yep. Yeah, and it did.
It's your mate, that is, definitely.
Oh, man. Absolutely pebble dash me. Bloody thing. Yeah, it's a story of my season so far, swans. Anyway, I thought that would cheer you up, knowing that I got hammered by a swan. But going back to the point I was making, I had such a brilliant morning because I didn't see a soul. I was out in the middle of nowhere. And it was exciting because I didn't know what I was going to run into. And that is the essence of pike fishing in the Fens. It's about working at areas, getting away from the crowds, and just, you've got space. You know, you can fish. I had 4 rods out off, I was off the bank, walking a bit. You know, technically you can't spread the rod butts out, but I had the baits out a fair distance apart, and I was covering a lot of water, and I was leapfrogging along. And it was great. It's just a bit of freedom. And I knew I wasn't going to see anybody. And it just felt like I was fishing properly. It was beautiful. So, pike anglers, come on. Let's all start doing it properly. Right, buddy. Can we talk about bitterling?
We could talk about them. I don't know a lot about them, but we could talk about them, yeah.
Oh, I know nothing. John Taylor, I mean, some of your match angling colleagues have been great, haven't they? They've been fishing different places.
Yeah.
So he was on the creek, I think, during the week.
Yeah.
And he had a picture of a bitterling. And I looked at this and thought, I don't know anything. COVID. Oh.
Yeah.
Was that distasteful of me to say that?
Sorry?
Did you not hear what I said?
No.
You're too busy snotting onto your plummets.
No. I'm too busy trying to sort these earphones out. I'm sure about them.
Are you still having problems?
They're just loud, I think. I'm not used to it.
Maybe you've cleaned your ears out for once.
Maybe, yeah.
Did you ever wash this month?
Yeah. Well, I had to, didn't I, for my special performance.
Which one?
I'm surprised you didn't ask me autograph at the start of the show, to be honest. But,
how rude of me.
I know, honestly.
Oh, let's forget about bitterling. This was far more interesting. I could... Yeah. Strange fish that people have dumped in the creek from their aquariums. Let's leave that one there. Right. Yes. Sorry. This is so rude of me. Now, I tried to watch it, and can you explain this? How in March do I get look east? No, I get look northeast.
Well,
Look northeast. It had Hull. I'm thinking I don't live near Hull. So
you get Hull.
That's northeast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's proper up north, like.
Yeah. So there's me trying to tune into Alex on Look East last. Was it?
Well, it wasn't me. It was about how fishing's being allowed in the current lockdown, which is quite positive, really. That national news is sort of covering fishing and getting it in the spotlight, and they come down for half a morning and did a bit of filming and went round the lakes and asked a few of the pleasure anglers and that what they sort of thought about everything, and it was good to see it on local and national TV. So
how long was it?
About 3 minutes. You know,
that's right.
The mega 3 minutes.
Did it have Piddly been advertised?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
I did see on one of your mates' Facebook pages they had a picture of you and someone else with his.
Yeah, taking the mickey. Yeah. Yeah, I've had all that. Yeah.
No, that's great though. That's really good. So you had a wash for that one.
Yeah, I had a wash for that, but I didn't have a shave because I had my mask on, so it was all right. You know.
Have you gone through puberty yet?
Yeah. I have a shave once every about week and a half. Me.
Alex, I do apologise. I completely forgot about that. That's brilliant, wasn't it? That Look East came and did it? Yeah.
Don't apologise. I was going to wait till the end of the show just to remind you. You know, it's a bit of a he's forgetting something. You know,
you were catching me out, weren't you? That's what it was.
Yeah.
That is very rude of me. Yeah, Bitterling aren't important. Look East is far more important. Yeah, well,
Bitterling. John Taylor's Bitterling.
Yeah. Anyway, if anyone can tell us what a Bitterling is, let us know.
Yeah, maybe Kai or someone like that can tell us a bit more about them. All I know is that I know there's a few in decoy. There's quite a few in commercial fisheries and stuff. They're weird-looking fish.
Do you want to know what the British record is?
I'm going to go half an ounce or something silly like that.
12 drams. Drams? Is that right?
Yeah, that's 3/4 of an ounce, isn't it? I don't know. Drams.
How many drams in an ounce? Is it 16 still?
I would think 16, yeah.
Wow, that's not big.
No.
Here we go.
No good as live bait, are they?
Wait, but 10 on a hook.
It might be good for perch.
Yeah, they'd work for perch, yeah. What's its lifespan? It's not great.
2 years, I reckon.
5 to 6 years.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. How to catch a bitterling. No, we're not going down this road. No, John Taylor will tell us. Yeah, he can be in touch.
I can imagine John Taylor being the master at catching them, though.
He likes his squats, doesn't he?
He's a small fish wizard, isn't he?
Does he ever use Big Maggot?
Big Ben Maggot?
Yeah.
Probably, but he likes to lace his ground bait with a few pinkies and squats, so, yeah.
Bitterling. Oh, right, we're going to leave Bitterling there. Let's have our weekly COVID section of looking at a local angling club.
Yeah.
So this week you have chosen
Ramsey Angling Club.
Perfect. Right, what are their waters?
What are their waters? Yeah. Well, they've got quite a bit of the 40 foot. Obviously, you spoke about Chatteris Working Men's Club. They own sort of the, I suppose, is it the start or the top end, really? I wouldn't know which end is the start or, well, I suppose it's the end, isn't it, where it joins the 16 foot. So
yeah, it must be. Yeah, it's downstream.
The Ramsey water starts at Puddock Bridge, I do believe, one side of Puddock Bridge, and goes all the way up then to Bodsey Bridge, where obviously Wells Bridge and the Old Nene comes in there. Obviously, years ago, the 40-foot was an amazing venue. You used to be able to park behind your peg and was reasonably safe to a certain extent, I would have thought. But obviously, the road's a bit different now, and it's a bit more difficult to fish. A lot of anglers do sort of park up sensibly and get across the bridges and fish the opposite bank because that road is so dangerous now. But it's still full of fish. There's plenty of cormorants on the wires about 3/4 of the way down. They're always there in numbers. The Black Death, as you call them.
Black
so
Death, yeah.
It amazes me how a fishery like that keeps producing decent match results and pike every year with that amount of them on there. And it's so frustrating to think what the venue could be like without those cormorants. Whatever time of day you go past, they'll be on them wires, which isn't good, but it's a venue that's still producing even though they're there, so hopefully it'll improve even more. I mean, this time of year, a lot of the fish get in what we call Ramsey Narrows, which is Ramsey 40-foot there. It's comfortable fishing. You can sort of, as long as it's not too wet, you can park off the grass. Again, lots of small pike, loads of jacks. There's a few better pike there. So either side of the bridge, plenty of fish, plenty of roach, small rudd. There's an odd big rudd there as well. Again, like all the drains after Christmas leading on to the end of the season. There's normally a few about. Lots of tench, especially after Christmas. It's probably the most known venue for catching tench, I would have thought, in the fens. They're quite substantial size as well, so definitely chop worm fest. There's a few big perch as well. So that's the 40-foot. Then obviously you've got the main section that they fish quite a lot in club matches is the Ramsey St Mary's stretch, opposite the church there, and that is awesome fishing through the winter, and it's good in the summer as well. Again, parking behind your peg, away from the road, nice and comfortable. The banks are perfect as well. They're not too steep. If you were picking a venue to go sort of on the Fenland drains where for comfort and fishing, it'd definitely be St Mary's. The sun's in your face, that's the only problem there. But if you get a bright sunny day, frost in the morning, bright sunny day, it's quite pleasant sat there in the sun, even though you can't see your float. But you'd still be able to see your float, Sandy. Don't worry about that.
Oh, too right, mate.
Yeah. Again, plenty of pike there as well. Another popular piking hotspot. You've got...
We're not talking about them now. They're banned, remember, because people have got to walk.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's all right. I could just walk round the corner.
Yeah.
So, yeah, St Mary's is probably 6 foot deep, maybe 7 foot deep. Probably 18 metres wide, most of it. Quite a lot of fish on a waggler. Lots of whip fishing, which again is nice and easy. Ground bait and pinky. Big red maggot.
Big red maggot.
Big red maggot, yeah. Bronze maggot, fluorine maggot. Hemp and tares. Casters, worms. You know, there's a bit of everything there. And if you want to catch rudd, you want to sit just over the crash barrier at the back of the church there, opposite the willow trees. There's about 4 pegs in there, a push, and there's that many fish there. You could walk across a rudd. I think, I'm not sure what I had last year in a match. 30, I don't know what I had, 32, 33 pound. I can't remember. I know I had over 30 pound. I might have had more on that. I don't know. In one of the midweek matches on there, it was all on a waggler. Literally fed about a quarter of a pint of big red maggot, and just fished about a foot deep. Just kept varying, chucking in 2 or 3 different spots. Catch 4, then move. Catch 4 and move. And one of the venues, if you want to get plenty of bites, definitely go there. It's absolutely rigid with fish.
What's it like? Just the other side of the bridge, upstream.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 pegs there where you'll catch. I mean, it might be more further down, but I'm speaking to Keith King. Don't show us your teeth, Raymond. Obviously, him and a few of the other locals do a lot of the bailiffing, and Keith is the match organiser of the pipe matches and obviously the standard matches, and he's a smashing bloke, and you'll recognise him when you see him anyway. And yeah, he said there's a few, you'll catch 2 or 3 pegs above it, and then it sort of dwindles out then. But the pegs, well, there's 4 or 5 pegs that are absolutely heaving with fish. And pegs 1 to sort of 10, I think the wires are about peg 10. The colder it gets, the more fish will be crammed in that little bit there. Because it's been so mild this year, I mean, fished a match, well, it was the Wednesday before the lockdown, and just the midweek club match there. It was about, I don't know, 16, 17 of us. And I was on peg, what was I on? 12? No. 12 or 13? No, a bit further down than that. I can't remember anyway. But I had a £24 and a nice Brucey bonus tench and £20 of roach on casters and bits and bobs. And there was a 22, another 20. So yeah, brilliant fishing through there, and comfortable fishing as well. So there's those 2 venues, and obviously Factory Bank, which it's been fishing well up in the town near the mill. Loads of fish there, just again short fishing, roach a chuck, perch a chuck. We don't tend to get many bream or skimmers there. It's mainly roach and perch, to be honest. Odd little hybrid. Squats and pinkies. Obviously, it's one of those venues that does colour up quite quick. So the more rain we have, sometimes the better it'll get. Obviously, too much rain and it goes into flood and it absolutely bombs through there because of it gets all the water from the golf course, from the brook or whatever they call it. So, as for winter fishing, it's brilliant, and summer fishing is pretty good as well.
Do you know what? I've never fished Factory Bank.
No.
I went. I met Tony Jakes down there a couple of weeks ago, and I just looked at not Factory Bank, St Mary's, and it was rammed out with anglers, absolutely rammed, and it just struck me as it was a perfect venue to leapfrog pike fishing. To go back to what I was saying earlier, big pike, the big pike aren't going to sit right in the middle of that lot.
No.
They'll sit well off, like hundreds of yards off, and they'll move in, have a feed, and go off again. This is what they do. They don't sit amongst all the bait fish. If you think about it, it'll spook the bait fish a lot of times. So they move off, move in when they want to feed, and move back out again. So if I was pike fishing that, I wouldn't sit in the middle of it. I would actually be on the periphery and move away from it, and move quite quick to try and find pods of pike, because they'll be somewhere. And it just struck me as a really nice place to do that. But I watched the anglers, and they were just sat in front of their car.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, why would you do that? Don't know. Strange one.
To their own, I suppose.
Well, there's a very famous book by John Watson. Not the March John Watson, but the Norwich John Watson. It's called It's called A Piker's Progress. And this John Watson is actually from Lancashire, I believe. So he was a Lancastrian in Norfolk. And back in the day, him and his brother did a little... for a year, they did a comparison on the same drain. His brother sat still.
Right.
And John moved. He leapfrogged. And they did it the same every time they went. And I think John had 10 pike to his brother's 1.
Right.
Because he was searching, working, finding, whereas his brother was just sitting, waiting for them to come through.
Right.
And leapfrogging, is the way to fish far more effectively on a fen drain, because you've got to go find them. You cannot catch what is not there. So, I see these guys sitting behind the cars, and, if I was had one of my infamous knee injuries. That's what I'd do if I couldn't move. But if I can walk, I get out and about, because that's how you're going to be more effective. But down there, I looked at it and thought, wow, what a lovely stretch of water.
Yeah, it's nice. Plenty of fish. Loads of fish.
There was loads of bank not fished.
Yeah.
Yeah, everybody was homed in on this one bit. And to be fair, the guy I went to meet, when I went to Tony, his whole idea was to leapfrog, but he got penned in. So, yes, not great. But there we go, buddy. That's a really good little section for Ramsey. Is it all day ticket water?
No, you can get day tickets for all of them, but a club book's about £15.
Do you
for the whole year.
Do you sell the club books?
Yeah, club books, day tickets on the bank as well. So, yeah.
Cool. Did you see the message we had from a guy called Benji Howe this week?
No, I haven't, no.
Oh, man. It's a brilliant message. So he sent us a message saying that he really enjoys listening to the podcast, and he was a commercial-only fisherman.
Right.
And because of the way we've described the natural fishing, he now has switched on to naturals.
Right.
And hasn't looked back.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, so I thought that was a beautiful message. You know, it's really kind of him to spend the time to do that. But he was explaining how, through listening to the podcast, he's actually started to fish natural venues and feels that he's, getting more out of his fishing now. So there's it's
definitely something rewarding about catching small fish or just getting bites. And I think even if you're not catching loads of fish on the river, when you do go back to your commercial fishing, I think the basics and the principles and that of why you're catching definitely help you when you do fish commercials as well.
Wow, I just think in a commercial, you know what's there. In the wilds, anything can happen. Also, you get all these surprises in the middle of nowhere. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it's always a debate, isn't it? But the difference is on commercials, the fish are there, but they're not easy to catch. They're pressured fish, and you still have to do things right. Once you get the right formula and stuff like that, you do have a really good day. But people think it's easy just to go on a commercial and sit down and you catch loads. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's not always like that. You still have to do things right. This time of year, obviously, a lot of the commercials. I mean, we don't really have many commercials around this area that are brilliant silverfish commercials. And like people have said, oh, you need a silverfish lake and all this and all that. But yeah, it's nice to have a silverfish lake. But when we've got such good natural venues where people can just rock up, pay £15 a year and stuff like that, you sort of, what's the point of trying to compete against them almost? We are a commercial fishery and people want to catch F1s and carp and don't get me wrong, different silverfish as well, but it's a different ball game, I mean, you've got so many specialised anglers now, like in match fishing as well. For example, you've got your top end commercial anglers that fish for F1s and are exceptionally good at that. Normally a bit younger, probably a bit more fitter, can fish 16 metres and put big weights of fish together. Then you've got like natural river anglers, so like your Trent sort of anglers where they're running stick floats and different methods. Then you've got your drain anglers really is a different, another sort of specialised area. And then you've got like your sort of Irish big lock, big natural wild water venue anglers that fish those sort of venues where there's loads of fish and can put together a big weight. So there's so much to do just in match fishing, the different aspects and that side of things. So, Benji might find that he gets into his drain fishing, and then all of a sudden he might want to do sort of feeder fishing for bream, and there's so much to do in fishing. It's unbelievable, really.
Oh man, you're learning every time you go, aren't you? Great.
Yeah.
I think it's a fantastic sport, and you just you got to absorb it all. And that was Simon Willsmore last week, wasn't it? I mean, how much has he done? And he's still learning. It's incredible. But that was a really nice message that Benji sent us. So, it's cool that we have an impact on people, and obviously he's branching out and trying different things. So that's been great. Right, buddy. Is there anything else that you would like to cover this week? Have I forgotten anything?
Well, we had a few sort of forgotten venues that we've been sort of mentioning each week, haven't we?
Oh, yes, I forgot that.
We're sort of running out of venues, really. I mean, obviously we mentioned the Bitterlin with 118 John Taylor, but Well Creek is a very good venue that more and more anglers are definitely fishing, whether they're fishing at Outwell or Upwell or Nordale or at Salters Lode. So the fishing's really good all the way through there. I mean, it's not really a forgotten venue. It's probably a up-and-coming venue in the area. It's free fishing as far as we know. Obviously, got to make sure you're not parked in front of people's driveways and sat in areas that are owned by privately. So, I mean, I'm not too clued up on where you can and can't fish on Well Creek, but from what I'm seeing, it's fantastic fishing. So, definitely a venue worth trying. Another one, I don't know if we mentioned it before, but that was the Whittlesea Bower opposite the Manor Fields there. Above Ashline Sluice. I'm not too sure if we've mentioned it or not, but another different venue controlled by Yaxley. And a venue that is sort of forgotten at the minute is Raveley Drain.
Yes, Raveley Drain.
It's a venue that has always had a lot of angling pressure over the years. Probably the last 10 years, it's really dwindled away from what it was. I think a lot of pike anglers again get on there. Plenty of like 6 to 8 pound fish and between the bridges, but the roach and the silverfish definitely have had a bit of a hit the last probably 8-9 years, and the fish have got smaller. And it's one of them venues though. It has sort of peaks and troughs, and it wouldn't surprise me if someone goes down there and it's absolutely solid again with nice stamped roach. But it was back in the day, it was awesome fishing, hempen casters across and groundbait and pinky short, and catch sort of 300-400 roach. You'd catch sort of 20-25 pound. And again, it was one of them venues, typical Fenland drain. The further you go away from the bridges, the worse it gets. But the bit above the sluice was always a lot wider and deeper, and you could always maybe have the chance of catching a couple of tench or some bream or something like that. Again, another one of the venues where it'd be perfect for drain hopping, because you've got miles and miles of river to go at. So if you're a pike angler, it's perfect for that.
Well, I was about to say, if anything northwest of Ramsey, there are miles and miles and miles of drains.
Yeah.
All those drains connect. And I've done a bit of driving out there. And one of my plans was to actually do this in the middle of nowhere, out there somewhere. But I just haven't got to it because I've got so much, to do around a bit closer to home. It's like, wow, there is so much to go at. And you're right. There's miles of connecting drains. And somewhere out there will be some absolute golden gems. But you've got to go and find them and not be told about them. This is the thing.
Yeah.
You've got to do the work yourself. So you're right, Alex. It's the perfect places to go leapfrogging and find out where there is and isn't fish. You're going to blank. Yeah, that's fair enough because it's going to be a lot of nothing. But you only want one.
Yeah.
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 I've got a couple.
Yeah.
Pulver Drain.
Where, sorry?
Pulver Drain off the Relief Channel. Have you ever fished it?
No, I know the one you mean, but no, I've not fished it.
I have absolutely no idea of how it's fishing, but as a kid, we used to fish that with the angling club, with Blacksmith's
Right.
Arms. Used to have matches on there. And the other place we used to go that I know is completely dead now was the River Nar in King's Lynn.
Right. Yeah.
That used to have some clonking roach in it, right near.
Yeah. I still think they fish it, but not very often.
I think it's got emptied basically. I think these roach are just gone. But there was some massive roach in there at one point. Now I know further upstream, the River Nar's a beautiful little river and it's got some surprises in. I just think this was the King's Lynn stretch. I think is empty now. Been empty for a long time. But these are places that again, just drop in, give it a go. You never know what could be about. It could be a waste of time, but it could be a red letter day. And I always think, go to places where the grass has got no footprints. You don't know what you're going to come up against. It could be really good.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's whether you're pike fishing, whether you got your big red maggot on or whatever you're doing. You just don't know, do you? That's the beautiful thing about these drains. It could be brilliant. Sorry, mate, I interrupted. Have you got any more little hidden gems?
Well, there's one called Goldie Lane. I don't think the weather's been cold enough, or maybe we haven't had enough rain yet, but as a kid, we always used to, like over Christmas, me and my dad used to do a lot of fishing and go to new venues and different bits and bobs. And I remember one particular year for my birthday, Dad said, "Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go?" And I can remember we always used to walk around Fenland Meadows, and as a kid, and we always used to see a few anglers fishing this little backwater off the Nene. I mean, I never knew what it was called or anything. And we walked through one day, and there was loads of people fishing, and they were all catching loads of small fish, like on hemp and tares and stuff like that. And it's so I said, "Dad, I want to go there." So I don't know, I was probably 10, 11 maybe, something like that. But mad keen, went all through the winter. Weren't just a summertime angler when I was that age. I went as much as I could. So we went down there, just hemp and tares, and I think my dad had like 50 pound of roach, which back then was a lot, was a big weight of roach. And I mean, I caught about 18 or 19 pound then. And when you're only 10 and 11, that's a lot of roach to catch. It was absolutely heaving. I fished a 3.5 metre whip all day, loads of pike, just typical backwater when the Nene's in flood, all the fish push in there. And it was absolutely heaving. So it was like, right, we'll go again. So a couple of weeks later, we went back, and I think you park in like the lay-by of knot cuts and walk through. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. And one particular day, we got there, and water was quite high, and sat there fishing, and this water was coming up and up and up. Anyway, we dropped in, and we caught like 20 fish in 20 chucks without feeding a thing. And then all of a sudden, the water come over the path, and it changed colour. I can remember, as soon as this colour come in, we never had another bite. By the end of the day, after like 2.5, 3 hours, we had to go, otherwise we'd been flooded out. And we pulled the fish out that we caught, and they'd completely changed colour.
Yeah.
In a matter of minutes, they changed colour to I think what it was, because all the paths were all limestones, round Fenland Meadows, what would come up onto them, and they'd obviously just done them, and you can imagine the colour. It was like a milky tea, grey colour. It was horrible, and the fish just went like see-through.
Yeah, white. Like they've been bleached.
Yeah, it was mad. But yeah, I think that's a venue. Definitely, if we have a load of rain, and maybe a hidden gem, that one.
Oh, a hidden gem. What would be great if people could get in touch with us and actually tell us if they've been to any of our hidden gems and they have any gems within them still.
Yeah.
But then again, maybe if they put in all the hard work, they want to keep it quiet for a little while. Now, I wouldn't blame them if they did that as well. No, that's a good one, Alex. That's a real good one. There used to be a trout lake quite close to there, didn't there?
I don't know.
Yes. But I won't talk about that. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, buddy. Have we got anything else we need to cover?
No, mate, not really. I think, obviously, hopefully we'll know a bit more what's going to happen in a couple of weeks regarding lockdown and matches and that side of things. And don't know. I'll tell you one thing that's been sort of hard to explain is the people that don't go fishing. When you say match anglers won't go fishing if it's not a match, they sort of look at you and you think, what are you on about? And it's true. It's like match anglers, me as well. I don't know. We just can't get motivated, or I don't know, the whole routine of, social side of things of going in a match and having a chat with everyone and getting there, get set up. You sat there for 5 hours and, you're weighing at the end. You do the best you can from the peg you're drawn. And I mean, a few of the match anglers that have been to the fishery, they're like, well, I don't know where I'm going to sit. When you've got a choice of pegs, it's really weird. It's like, well, I don't want to sit there because I'm going to catch one a chuck there. And I don't want to go down there because I'm not going to catch anything down there. And it's like, I'll sit happy medium somewhere just off the fish and hopefully they move and I'll catch a few. And it's like 3 hours. You can see that they're enjoying it, but not like they would if they was in a match.
Yeah, but I can understand that totally, because it's how it's not only the fishing, it's the competitive element and the social side. That's, I mean, I go for the complete opposite reasons, don't I? I don't want to see anybody, and I want to try and catch the biggest fish I can find. And I know it's a bit of a solitary thing, but that's one of the reasons I do it. I love getting out in the middle of nowhere and not seeing anybody and watching the wildlife, and then if you get a run,
get attacked by swans.
Well, wow, mate, I've lost my mojo, and I think it's directly linked to swans. I do. I think
what it is.
They've done me every time I go anywhere. Bloody swans! They just do things to me. Like, I mean,
I reckon it's them big white floats that you use. They think it's a loaf of bread, and they just home in on your idea.
It might be, yeah. Yeah, I'll try some.
I was going to ask you. Obviously, I've seen quite a few pike anglers fishing this over the weekends and that. Is there an advantage of not having your float correctly shotted? I mean, in match angling, obviously, we want the floats dot down to a dimple and such forth. Whereas I see a lot of pike anglers, the floats don't even cock. They're just like, I don't know. I don't know if there's an advantage to having it weighted properly or not weighted properly, is there?
Yeah, there's a if you're doing it properly, there's a whole mindset about this. So, how can I explain this? If you can straight ledger,
a
lot of people will straight ledger. I won't go into that now, but you can have running rigs or fixed leads, and there's pros and cons for both. I think all fish can see a ledgered thick line like a braid, and they hit it and spook. So a lot of people float fish because it's very easy. You can see bite recognition very simply. So if you are float deadbait fishing, because that's what we're talking about, aren't we? Yeah. What you want to use a float that doesn't cock, or a float that cocks with the flow. And you want to set it, say, about 1 foot to 2 foot over depth. So what you want, you want an angle. So if you imagine
strut peg,
it's a bit like casting out a waggler, or we used to call it a lob or slingshot type action. You don't want to cast it like you would, I don't know, like a lure. You want to get it so the bait goes first through the air. Then your cocking shot, or whether you wait to keep it on the bottom, follows it, and then the float last, if that makes sense. And you basically want to feather it as it hits the water so the whole thing's in a straight line. Because what you don't want is your bait to come back towards your main line and go over your main line.
Right.
Because then you're going to get a bite off.
Right.
So what you want to do is feather it so it all hits the water in a straight line. And then what I do is I actually like you would a waggler, I put my finger on the spool, so the whole thing pendulums down.
Yeah.
Are you with me? So the weight's going to hit the bottom first, my dead bait's going to follow it, and then my float is back towards me at an angle, so I know I haven't got any chance of the rig coming back on itself. So say I'm fishing a drain. I'll talk about up traces in a minute. Say I'm fishing a drain with no flow or very little flow. I'll have it. Well, I used to have it. I've changed, which I'll explain in a minute. I used to have it so my floats wouldn't cock. So when I got a run, you'd see, particularly on a day like today, there's no wind, your float would move and you get a ripple around the float straight away.
Right.
Are you with me? Or if it's windy or there's a flow, I'd have it so my floats would half cock against the resistance of the wind or the flow.
Yeah.
So when I got a pickup, the float would lie flat. So I'd see it straight away before the run developed.
Right.
Because when the run develops, obviously it just goes and it's pretty obvious whatever you're doing, unless you're fishing 10 foot over depth and haven't got a stop knot on or doing something stupid. So you can do different things depending on what the conditions are. So I make all my own floats and I have them so, I actually have them so they've got like a carbon stem and a couple of polyballs and they don't cock unless it's flowing. So if it's flowing and I get a pickup, they go flat and then they move off. So I see the whole thing happen like that. And then when there's no flow or no wind, they lie flat. But I have it so my line's fairly tight to my line clip. So when I get a pickup, I see the float bob anyway. So the pikes pick the bait up and I can see the float bobbing even though it's not moved off with it. But that's people who are observant and know what they're doing. Right. I think a lot of people just put a float on, guess the depth, chuck it out, and that's when they get deep hook pike and so forth because they're not using it for the correct method. You don't want to be more than 2 foot over depth. You don't need to be. But you're using that angle of being over depth to help you.
Yeah.
Because you keep.
So, what about if you was fishing or targeting zander? Then how would you set up for them?
Well, that's a very good question. I'm glad you've asked me that one because someone actually wanted me to talk about this last week and I completely forgot. So I'll give you a good example. When I went out in the wilds last week to get away from everything, I knew I had a chance of being in the zander area as well. And my first run, I think, was a Z.
Right.
Picked it up, dropped it because I was using heavy pike tactics. So it's my own fault. I should have set up a couple of zander rods to use with my natural dead baits. So if I was zander fishing, what a lot of the zander guys do, they do straight ledger and they have a running rig. So they have quite a heavy weight with a running leg and run ring on the lead, and they'll have it so the zander picks up the bait and it's got that running through the rig ring. If I was using a float though, I'd use a very small float and perhaps a couple of swan shot. So when the zander picks up the bait, there's very little resistance. What you've got to remember is, if a pike feels resistance, it probably won't drop it. It'll pull against it.
Pulls against it.
Yeah, and you get a very positive take. So that's when you're pike fishing, you kind of want that to happen. The problem is when you're zander fishing, is that's the time when they're going to drop it. And also, I had completely the wrong hooks on and the wrong wire for zander fishing last week. So I was using my normal, I go overboard, I use 60-pound wire and I use really big, strong trebles. Now, if I'm a zander fishing, I would actually use the old partridge doubles. A zander's mouth is really bony and to try and get any hook penetration with a treble is really difficult, whereas if you use doubles, they're really good. And I'll use a really supple wire trace. So when the zander picks it up, it's got less spring to it.
Yeah.
And I think it just helps the zander not feel so much. So when I go next couple of weeks, I'll try again what I did on Friday, but I shall actually take a couple of rods, literally with the lightest weight I can get away with, just so everything holds in position with a slight flow. And then I'll use a very light flow, and then I'll have it resistant free to the rod. So if I get any pickups from zander, I'm on it, but I've got to be careful because I could also get a pike pickup and not register much. And that's where you've got to be a bit careful for this because that's why I use quite clonky methods for pike because they will just pull against it and you get a very positive resistance, a very positive run to what's happening. There's also, if you fish in pressurized waters, the opposite happens and you've got to think about it again. But yeah, that's how it is. Just to go back to one thing, Alex. People who are pike fishing really need to consider using an up trace.
Right.
Because they'll cast out, if they're not paying attention, the dead bait will come back like a pendulum effect against the lead. Particularly if they're using small dead baits, the lead will overtake the dead bait and the dead bait will catch back on the main line. Does that make sense? Can you envisage that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And really, anglers have got to start thinking about using an up trace because that's, particularly if they, I don't know, if they're not paying attention or zander fishing at night, that could happen. You've just got to be so careful because if you're casting out, your dead bait really has got to be heavier than the weight you're using to stabilise it. Otherwise, that it will, like I said, your lead will overtake your dead bait, and that's when you're going to get problems, and that's when you're going to get a pike mortality because it will bite off. So, dead bait fishing is fairly straightforward, but you really have got to think about it and pay attention to what you're doing. But hopefully that answers a few things there.
Yeah.
Cool. Right. I'll tell you what we're going to do. We need to bring this to an end. Can I just remind everybody that we've got Peter Beckenham on Friday as the guest speaker? That's the wrong thing. The guest on the podcast. Obviously, that's a really good listen, and it's something completely different. It's not fishing related, but obviously it's environment related. And just to remind everybody, Alex, about the Facebook competition. So can you just reiterate what we're going to do on that one?
Yeah, so we're going to do a competition where you have to listen. We'll have a question on the Facebook. Obviously, you've got to comment what the answer is, and then you'll have a chance of winning some Simon Willsmore goodies.
So that's the Simon Willsmore podcast from last week. We'll pose a question, and then what we will do, will we announce the winner next week? How are people going to enter? Are they going to do it via the Facebook pages?
Yeah, just Facebook pages, comment on, and then we'll pick a winner at random.
Are you going to allow any entry via the tackle shop?
Are we what, sorry?
Are you going to allow anybody to enter? Oh, no, they can't, can they? Still click and collect.
What? Yeah.
Sorry, I was getting ahead of myself. Dear me. You see, I keep forgetting. I'm getting old. Keep forgetting what we're doing.
No comment.
Hey. Right, buddy. Last thing
before... Fenland boomer.
Yeah, I know. Last thing before we go. What have you got planned fishing-wise this week?
Can you hear me still, yeah?
Yeah, I just thought you're making more rigs. You keep fumbling away in the background. God knows what you're doing.
Yeah, I'm doing all sorts of stuff, mate. You know, all secret stuff. Varnishing floats and painting bristles and, just making jobs that I didn't really need to do. That's what we got. I'm probably going to go Wednesday on the 20-foot maybe and see what fish have moved in there and maybe cut some pegs out in case we can get match fishing in a couple of weeks, sort of get ahead of the game a bit and do some raking because I know it's extremely snaggy down there. And then Sunday, I don't know, to be honest. Like I say, I can't really get motivated to go pleasure fishing at the minute, so I may go and do something a bit different. That's this week pretty much, and hopefully we can get an answer of whether we're going to be match fishing or not, and then we can sort of plan for getting the winter leads back on and make sure the bait man's going to have plenty of squats for me because it goes from no squats to 15-gallon of squats, so they need to know really in advance.
Yeah,
because they can't just magic come out of nowhere. Not a lot really, mate, but that's about it really.
Cool. Well, I envisage to try and get a little bit more. I need to get my mojo back, and the only way of doing it is getting out there and giving it a go.
Giving it a go,
Giving
boy.
it a go. Right. I think we've bored everybody enough this week. We'll have another go next week. Like I said, don't forget the Peter Beckenham podcast, everybody, and the Facebook competition where Alex is going to give away three free stuff. Awesome. Hey. Okay, this has been Tales from the Tackle Shop, a Fenland Fishing TV production.